and welcome to the Foresight podcast series. I am with you, Atolia, a student pursuing MA in International Relations and Strategic Studies from University of Mumbai, and currently a research fellow at Foresight. This interview is a part of our fellowship program where we invite guests and discuss countries with them. Today we will be discussing about Türkiye or Turkey, its President Erdogan, neo-Ottomanism amid regional and global challenges. And what more can we ask for when we have with us a very distinguished personality, Dr. Mudassir Qamar. To give a brief introduction about you, sir, Dr. Qamar is an associate professor at the Center for West Asian Studies, School of International Studies, Jawaharlal Nehru University. Prior to joining JNU, he was a fellow at the Manohar Parrikar Institute for Defense Studies and Analysis. As a part of his project in MPIDSA, he had authored a monograph on Erdogan's Turkey, politics, populism, and democratic dilemmas. He specializes in Middle East strategic affairs, political Islam, and India's relations with the region. Dr. Qamar has authored and edited several books, published research articles in reputed academic journals, and contributed chapters in edited volumes on contemporary developments in the Middle East and North Africa. He is the editor of the Contemporary Review of the Middle East and has served as the book review editor of the Strategic Analysis. Very, very welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Naman, for having me and for the kind introduction. I'm really happy to be part of your Foresight interview series and looking forward to this discussion.
So let's start with the first question, the man of the hour, President Erdogan. Sir, since 2002, since he assumed power, he has unveiled himself in stages for for positioning himself as the hegemon. Firstly, it was the constitution change bit. After that, it was the change from prime ministerial system to the presidential system. Now, what we are seeing, as evident from the media reports, he has unveiled a new stage. He has started putting the opposition leaders into jail. One was Ekrem Imamoglu from the CHP, who is often called as an opposition to Erdogan. So, how do you look at it when several mayors are going into jail? Istanbul, Bayrampaşa, Mugle, Kanape, the list goes on. And what, according to you, will be the next stage of this Erdogan's authoritarianism?
We'll have to understand this current phase of political situation in Turkey under President Erdogan. We need to understand some idea about Turkish political history. The problem of authoritarianism or autocratic leadership in Turkey is not new. Whether going back to Mustafa Kemal Atatürk himself, who had established a one-party system. He himself was a very autocratic leader, even though he established a secular republic Turkey. He's considered to be the father of modern Turkey. And and this phenomenon has continued on and off. So you would see that every time Turkey has tried to overcome this problem of a centralized one-party system, there have been efforts towards democratization. There has been efforts towards making elections as the way forward or as the most important factor in decision making, in political decision making, in formation of government. There has been trends or tendencies within the Turkish political system, or you can say the deep state, to come back. And throughout that process, and the current situation, which started in 2002 under AKP, and 2003 Erdogan became prime minister. For the first 10 years, it was a very good progressive situation where Erdogan brought economic prosperity. He brought political changes that allowed many of the marginalized sections of the society to come to the fore. He also tried, improving relations with the outside world in the Varna region, with European countries, with the EU. And he also brought changes in the constitution to make it more democratic.
Mm.
And then he also attempted to resolve or to have peace with the Kurds, with
Yeah.
the PKK, the Kurdistan Workers' Party.
Yeah.
So many of these positive developments led to a hope that Turkey is moving towards democratization. However, since 2012, especially as the situation in the region after Arab Spring
Yeah.
started to change, Turkish foreign policy started to become more and more, I would say, ambitious,
Okay. Yeah.
with the accusation of neo Ottomanism coming into the picture.
Mm.
And then you also see the domestic politics getting affected by an ambitious leadership.
Yeah.
So Erdogan gradually started to become a figure, a centralizing, a controlling figure in the political system.
Mm.
Within AKP, he sidelined a large number of you know, his uh, leaders,
Mm.
leaders of the AKP. And then he also ensured that there is nobody within the AKP who can challenge him.
Yeah.
Gradually, after 2016 coup attempt,
Mm.
there was a tendency to, grab power even more.
Mm.
The sense of insecurity, the sense of threat increasing. So all of this has culminated into a situation which has brought Turkey to the current situation where CHP, which is an old party,
Yeah.
which is a democratic, which is I wouldn't say necessarily democratic, but I would say secular
Mm.
republic party, a nationalist party,
Mm.
which has started to gain some support base among the younger population, younger generations, younger voters. And this has created a situation wherein during the last election, the mayor of Istanbul, Ikram Imamoglu, he emerged as a major challenger to Erdogan's presidency.
Yeah.
And this is why now you have seen that he is being embroiled in a corruption allegations, being jailed, and then many of the Kurdish mayors who were elected in the southeastern part of Turkey, they have also been jailed
Yeah.
on allegation of being associated with PKK. So there are a number of factors that have contributed to what is happening in Turkey today.
Yeah.
But I would say that, I mean, it's difficult to predict the future. But I would say that till Erdogan is around, the hope for a democratic change or a democratic turn in Turkish politics would remain subdued.
Mm.
And, but I would also underline one more important point, that Turkey has the, you know, political structures
Mm.
and institutions to maybe turn around this situation in the future. So we have both possibilities wherein there is a possibility of continuation of authoritarianism, and there is also a possibility for Turkey to turn this around into a new phase uh, of better where better hope
Yeah.
for a better future can be there.
Uh, Sir, you just mentioned about political institutions. I just have one question with that. Just to give an example, the judiciary, Erdogan in through the new constitution, the 2016-17 constitution, has changed the whole composition of judges, how the judges were appointed. Some of them are appointed by the president himself, and some by the National Assembly, which essentially has the AKP leadership. So, in that sense, judiciary, which is like in a typical democracy, how would we call it? It's the system of checks and balances. So, when the most important institution, judiciary, is not even on the hold, how can we expect political institutions to flourish, to do something?
I
To
mean, yeah, I mean, obviously, one of the reasons why analysts and observers of Turkey have been critical of the AKP government is the, I would say, a gradual or progressive reduction in many important pillars of democracy.
Yeah.
For example, when we look at the issue of freedom of speech or freedom of expression,
Yeah.
mainly through the traditional media and also now with new media,
Yeah.
that space has reduced.
Yeah.
Another very important pillar is the independent judiciary. Now, if we look at judiciary in Turkey, uh, even before the changes that were brought through constitutional changes in 2016-17, the Turkish judiciary has not been always completely independent.
Okay.
There has been, the possibility of political meddling in the functioning of judiciary has always been there.
Yeah.
What Erdogan has done is he has changed the way of appointment of judges
Yeah.
to make sure that he has the final say on
Yeah.
who is going to become the judge in the court, in the Supreme Court, in the
Yeah.
highest court. That has led to a situation where the chances of Erdogan being, getting any kind of judicial resistance to his rule,
Yeah.
to his continuation as the, if we have to use the word as supreme leader,
Yeah.
that kind of a situation is almost negligible. But that does not mean that the entire judicial system in Turkey has been compromised. It is only the highest court and the appointment of the lead judges that has been, that has been criticized. But the judges, even though sometimes they are appointed by the leader, they
Yeah.
can they still have to follow the constitution. They still have to follow the norms and rules,
Mm.
which means that the possibility of a functioning judiciary, I wouldn't say a independent judiciary, a functioning judiciary is still very
Yeah.
much there.
Okay. So, so that we can actually conclude that Erdogan is a kind of hero turned hegemon. We will discuss more on this, but I want you to highlight the electoral behavior in Turkey. Sir, at the level of the national elections, AKP has been in power since 2002. But in the recent local elections, we are seeing that the parties such as you mentioned, CHP, the secular party, has come over with Ekrem Imamoglu. But there is a different trend which can be seen. Then at the national level, people are still voting for Erdogan, but at the local level, they don't want him. So, and also there is a survey by Turkish Statistical Institute that 67% of the citizens don't want Erdogan, but still they are voting for him. So, what is this electoral behavior in the state?
See, when it comes to Turkey, the electoral system is such
Yeah.
that challenging existing sitting prime minister president in now it's a presidential system,
Yeah.
it is to some extent difficult.
Hmm.
When you look at the local elections, it is actually Turkey has Turkish local elections means municipal elections.
Yeah.
Basically,
Yeah.
you have a national kind of nationalized, centralized system, not centralized, but a nationalized system of
Yes.
elections at municipal level. So at one go, the entire country, municipal corporations in the entire country go for elections. And
Hmm.
in most cases, the local issues prevail in those elections in the sense that you have many independents, many local leaders, many leaders who might have be sympathetic to AKP or not, but are able to deliver on certain local issues or have promised,
Hmm.
to deliver. They winning, coming on top as mayors or as members of the municipal corporation. For example, in the southeastern areas of Turkey, in Diyarbakir and other areas,
Yeah.
you would see mostly the Kurdish leaders taking over
Yeah.
as mayors.
Yeah.
And then there was a trend that they were being uh, removed because of the allegations
Hmm.
of them being associated with PKK and so on.
Yeah.
Now, if we look at the national elections,
Hmm.
there are two major parties. You
Hmm.
have the AKP and the CHP,
Yeah.
but you have a number of smaller parties.
Yeah.
For example, you have the nationalist secular party, which is an ally of the AKP,
Yeah.
even though AKP is considered as a moderate kind of Islamist party. So there are many other smaller parties. When you look at the opposition vote, it sometimes or it often gets split into smaller parties,
Mm.
and the party in power, the AKP vote and its allies vote gets consolidated.
Yeah.
So that also the electoral dynamics kind of play a role in Erdogan still getting elected. But that does not mean that they have the AKP has an overwhelming kind of a support base. Uh, there is there has been reduction in its vote share.
Mm.
There has been challenges to its, if you call it as the domination of electoral political system in Turkey. There has been challenges. There has been credible efforts to have different leaders coming up, to have certain parties gradually coming up. There are now smaller parties who have split from AKP, who have also become, who are relevant parties, even though they cannot be considered as major parties.
Yeah.
So what we are witnessing is also a phase where there has been a lot of diffusion of votes
Yeah.
as far as the national level votes are concerned.
Mm.
And this has led to a situation where Erdogan is a very, I would tell you this, that Erdogan is a very smart politician,
Yeah,
I mean
for sure.
extremely sharp politician, a survivor to the core.
Yeah.
And he every time he has faced a very serious challenge, to the extent of pollsters and pundits calling that
Mm.
Erdogan is likely to lose this time. He has come up with some or the other out of the box tactics, sometimes going beyond the, or not sometimes, often going beyond the what can be considered as rule-based system.
Yeah.
He goes beyond it. He comes up with some idea. He comes up with some tactics to make sure that he survives.
Yeah.
So he has been a survivor in that sense, and this reflects at the national level, while at the local level, at the municipal level, this does not reflect, because he is ready to work with at times leaders, local leaders,
Mm.
who may not be his vehement opposer,
Mm.
his vehement critique. So that kind of a situation prevails as far as the electoral dynamics is concerned.
Yeah. That was very insightful, sir. I want you to speak about defense. Uh, Recently, Turkey has done very well in defense. They have pushed for Atolia, they have pushed for F-35 missiles from the United States and various other arms and ammunitions. Uh, Analyzing media reports, two major factions come over. One is the SAFE initiative by Europe, which was which is primarily concerned with the Russia-Ukraine war, where Turkey is also a contributor due to the Montreal Convention, the location of Bosphorus for the trade routes. And so
Right.
the EU wants that every member state of this organization should have those defense arrangements, and Turkey is also actively pursuing for that. The second part is the very recent one, the Israel uh, Gaza war, where to where the conflict is more recent, it's more turbulent. Even the Turkish forces are present in the Gaza Strip, and Netanyahu has very much criticized, has very much disliked the idea of this. And to quote a news report by Daily Sabah for a newspaper of Turkey, to curb this whole Israel gimmick, they are also looking for regional cooperation, building regional access like with Turkey, Egypt, Syria, and Lebanon. So, what do you think? What is the reason behind all this win-win cooperation of, or win-win defense cooperation of Turkey? Is it the Europe part or the Middle East part? Which one holds more ground according to you?
Okay, so there are two parts to your question, and I would answer it in two parts. So
Yeah.
one thing is related to Turkish defense industry.
Hmm.
What Turkey has done over a period of last, I would say, 3, 4 decades, has invested in establishing, developing a very robust defense industry. So
Yeah.
there is now a defense industrial complex,
Yeah.
military industrial complex emerging in Turkey. And what has happened is that Turkey has been able to produce a number of weapons over a period of time, especially small arms, military vehicles, many of the other logistical things
Yeah.
that are used in logistical equipment that are used by military.
Mm.
Turkey has been able to sell it to a large number of smaller countries in the global south, including in Asia, in Africa, and in many other parts of the world.
Yeah.
The other aspect of this domestic industrial complex is that through its cooperation with US, European countries, Canada, and then now China,
Yeah.
it has been able to develop drones, the UAVs, that have proved to be very effective in war situation, in real war situation. They were tested in Libya during the Libyan crisis, during the civil war in Libya.
Yeah.
They were tested during the 2021 Nagorno-Karabakh conflict and proved to be very effective. It was used by Azerbaijan against Armenia. It was used in Syria against the Kurds, in northern Syria,
Mm.
and then it also had supplied it to Ukraine before the 2022 conflict started after Russian invasion, and that they also proved there also Ukraine was able to thwart a number of Russian attacks because by using Turkish drones,
Yeah.
especially the Bayraktar TB2 drones. So in that sense, Turkey has emerged, and if you look at the SIPRI database, in the last 10 years, Turkey has emerged as one of the major, I
Yeah.
think it is now one of the top 10 or top 15 defense suppliers in the world.
It's in top five.
So now it has come to top
Top
five.
five. Yeah.
So imagine a situation where Turkey has been able to develop such a robust defense industry. Now it is supplying to countries like Pakistan,
Yeah.
Bangladesh, in Central Asia. It has promised and made deals with countries in West Asia, in the Middle East, in Southeast Asia. So what we are witnessing is that Turkey's defense industry has given it a very, very strong tool in enhancing its foreign policy, enhancing its, advancing its uh, foreign external interest, and so on.
Yeah.
Notwithstanding, I mean, and that has also given it some leverage in terms of its negotiation with Europe, especially in the light of the Russia-Ukraine war, and then the kind of energy crisis that they have been facing. The refugee issue emerging from the Middle East also had created given Turkey some leverage.
Yeah.
And Turkey has played it very well. I mean, you look at
Yeah.
currently the kind of relation you have between Erdogan and Trump.
Yeah.
Trump calls him a friend. Trump
Yeah.
calls him a very good friend, a very effective leader,
Yeah.
and all the nice things he talks about when it comes to Erdogan. Europeans have significantly reduced criticism of Turkey's internal, problems. If you go back pre-Ukraine war situation, every day you would see criticism of Turkey and Erdogan in European press, and today that has come down significantly, if not altogether. So that is one aspect that is notable. Now, as far as the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is concerned, or Israel-Hamas war, and the current situation in Gaza Strip is concerned, I would say that Turkey, though it wants to play, or it at least states that it wants to play a major role there, and it can be a stabilizing force. And if we have to go by the the media reports and statements, perhaps it did put some pressure on Hamas in the latest ceasefire that came into effect last month.
Yeah.
And that's why Trump was very praiseful of, he was very appreciative of Erdogan. But besides that, I don't think Turkey is in a position to really play a major role
Yeah.
as far as Gaza Strip is concerned. And I don't think currently Turkey has deployed any military there. The Turkish humanitarian assistance might be active, but the Turkish military is not active.
Okay.
And as far as its relations with Israel is concerned, that has suffered significantly for a very long time, going back to 2008. Progressively, the situation has worsened. There was a period when they had tried to, when Isaac Herzog, the current president, I think and Erdogan, they met also. But progressively, the situation has not really been good, which means that Turkey, when it comes to Israel, it will not trust Turkey. So far as Egypt and other regional countries are concerned, for example, countries like Jordan, countries like UAE, countries like Saudi Arabia, they also do not trust Turkey as much as Turkey would like to.
Yeah.
And that will enable it to play a greater role.
Yeah.
The only country today that have in the region that can be considered to be close to Turkey is to some extent Qatar,
Okay.
and the current dispensation in Syria.
Okay.
But both these have problems of their own. Qatar is not really in a position to do something very dramatic. Syria is struggling in the sense to try and come to terms with the 10-year civil war and its own the past of HTS. So we have to be careful in and cautious in seeing any role for Turkey. I would say that while Turkey might state that it has a greater role to play, in reality it may not be really able to play much of a role.
Okay. Uh, that was very insightful, sir. Uh, you just mentioned about the US. There was a think tank report I was reading, which had mentioned that with the coming of Donald Trump to the White House, the the quote unquote bromance of Erdogan and Donald Trump has been re-established. So, what do we mean by this statement, and why there exists a relationship between Erdogan and Donald Trump, and not between Erdogan or possibly say his predecessor Joe Biden?
So I would look at it from two perspectives. One is from the American perspective. If you look at it, Donald Trump is a leader who wants things to be done.
Yeah.
He's a great bargainer. He wants to bargain. He wants to, push as much as possible to get what he wants. And he likes leaders who are able to deliver,
Yeah.
who are able to, make him an offer that he can't refuse. So, I mean, if you look at from an American perspective, from the US perspective, the current administration, the Donald Trump administration, is favorable to us anyone who is able to promise
Okay.
something and then deliver something to Trump administration. And Erdogan is very good at it. Erdogan and the Turkish administration, current government, people in the Turkish administration, they know it, and they are trying to capitalize on it like any other country in the world. I mean, except for a few countries which remain not much affected,
Yeah.
most of the countries are trying to capitalize on this situation. So, what we are witnessing is that Donald Trump is looking for partners
Yeah. For sure.
everywhere in the world,
For sure.
and Turkey, Erdogan is an important partner.
Okay.
From Turkish point of view, it is important because it gives them leverage. It gives them a good partnership with a strong country in the region. Yeah, so that is the kind of situation that currently prevails. Uh, it is a partnership that is very natural.
Yeah.
Both are very similar leaders. They have similar functioning style. That makes them, that might be the reason why
Yeah.
the reference to bromance was there.
Okay. So let's bring, sir, the Kurdish issue into the top. Uh, Recently, President Erdogan had successfully initiated a peace treaty between the PKK and the state. The first phase has already begun and is completed, but there are some some problems regarding the second phase. I would like to quote one of the top PKK executives, Duran Kalkan. He was speaking to the Birgun newspaper, in which he has said that, and I quote, the process is not a choice but necessity. Either this process will bring peace and democratization, or it will be a disaster. So actually, what disaster is this Mr. Kalkan referring to? And
See, if we look at the issue of Kurds in Turkey, again, it's a historical issue.
yeah,
It's very clear that Kurds have been marginalized. I mean, not just gradually, right from the very beginning.
yeah,
At the time of formation of Turkey, the Turkish Republic, the Republic of Turkey, the Kurds were not given their due in the
mm,
sense that Turkish constitution did not even recognize them as a a distinct group of people, a distinct community.
yeah,
They are considered as mountain Turks.
yeah,
So that is something that has been a serious challenge. It's a basically what the Kurds want today at this point
mm,
is to be recognized as a Kurdish identity,
mm,
be recognized as separate in the sense and as a community,
yeah,
as to allow for their own culture, for their Kurdish language, for their practices to be recognized,
yeah,
and then politically they be given the space that they deserve in
yeah,
terms of number of in terms of their demographic numbers.
mm,
So if you look at the Kurds, I mean the armed they at this point, the disbanding of PKK and Abdullah Öcalan agreeing for complete disbanding and stopping of armed resistance is a significant point, a significant departure from the past, but it underlines that the Kurds have realized that their struggle cannot be realized. They cannot achieve their goals through our armed resistance,
yeah,
and they have decided to
disarm,
gain this through a political process,
yeah,
with the hope that the Turkish state will reciprocate.
mm,
And Erdogan has tried it before; he is trying it again, and he might. I, I don't. I wouldn't say that they will be able to resolve all the issues,
mm,
but if both sides, remain committed to this political process in resolving the issues, it might take time, but it might gradually lead to a situation where we would see perhaps a greater integration of Kurds within the Turkish political, economic, and social,
yeah,
structures. I'm not talking about assimilation. I'm talking about integration, which is very important. And the Kurds, would never accept assimilation. They want their separate identity to be accepted, to be constitutionally recognized,
mm,
and they want political participation. They want, uh, political representation, and if those things can be realized, perhaps it will lead to a better situation.
yeah,
I think what he was referring to in terms of a disaster is the failure of this process, which will again lead to going back to the same old story of Kurds taking up arms, and the kind of violence, the uh, kind of a civil war like situation will again resume, which will end up in a disastrous situation for both the Turkish state as well as for the Kurds.
yeah,
So I would say that they have a historic opportunity to resolve this issue. If not resolve, at least ensure that this issue is does not become go back to the exactly same situation. There is a gradual progress towards peace.
Sir, you just like few time back, you just mentioned the analogy of Erdogan trying to being position himself as the supreme leader. The supreme leader is very much synonymous to that of to something that we have in Iran, Ayatollah Khomeini. I just wanted to ask you. Is this analogy being, uh, you know, correlated with Erdogan? Is this due to, as you call it, the counter-cultural revolution or the Islamization which he is doing in Turkey?
Yeah, I mean, I was referring to him as trying to become a supreme leader in the sense of the political system, the
Yeah,
domestic political system, being the sole, arbiter of political situation.
yeah,
In that sense, he has actually achieved that status already.
okay,
Uh, he is he is the supreme leader in that sense. If you look
yeah,
at the current prevailing political situation,
yeah,
that does not mean the political system has been changed. This is
mm,
not a. I mean, there are some changes in the political system, but there, as I said earlier, there is still scope for reversing that trend
yeah,
and a situation where democratization can still be achieved
yeah,
or can still be, resumed, if not achieved.
yeah,
Having said that, if you look at the idea of counter-cultural revolution, I have a slightly different view on it.
okay,
Actually, if you look at Turkey, the process of secularization
mm,
that was undertaken during the Kemalist Republic, during
yeah,
the Kemalist period,
yeah,
was was also some kind of a counter cultural revolution.
yeah,
So what we are witnessing under Erdogan, and it precedes actually, the process had started much earlier, wherein the large section of population in Turkey remains devoutly Muslim.
yeah,
They practice Islam, they practice Orthodox Islam.
yeah,
So the forceful secularization and westernization by the state
yeah,
had not necessarily removed this sense, this inclination towards Islamic orthodoxy,
yeah,
and it has, in the form of AKP, in the form of some of the previous political parties, this has kept coming back in a political form, in its political representation. So, what can be called as a counter revolution, countercultural revolution, whether earlier was a countercultural revolution or whether currently what we are witnessing, the current phase is countercultural revolution, that is debatable. But the point is that Turkey will have to find a way to be at ease with its, different identities. Its
yeah,
modern, contemporary state identity, a republic identity, and then its Islamic historical Ottoman identity as
yeah,
well, or Turkish identity as well, which has been a serious challenge as far as Turkish polity is concerned, and this has reflected in, you know a very polarizing trend in
yeah,
Turkey for a very long time. The current phase is where you have AKP that is in power and has polarized towards itself. Earlier, it was the other way around.
yeah,
So, what we are witnessing is just a new phase, which can change in a later period, depending on who is in power. And in my understanding, the people in Turkey, the large section of population in Turkey remains largely rooted in the local culture, local heritage, and Islamic, ways of life.
My last question, my last two questions to you, sir. Firstly, I just want you to shed some light on the Turkish economy. There was a report by Sosku or Evrensel that the local Turkish people are now going to Greece for shopping their daily essentials. The inflation, as always, is on the rise. Previously, the Turkish regime had solved this issue by introducing the new Turkish lira. The problem is not so radical at this time, but still, there are problems related to inflation, there are problems related to employment and erosion of human capital. How do you see this problem and how is the ruling regime actually dealing with this?
The economic challenge is very, I would say, significant.
Yeah,
Turkey has faced economic problems in the past, but what is the current problem is much more magnified. It is much more augmented. Uh, Turkey was actually in 2019 when in early 2020 when COVID-19 hit. Turkey had hoped for improving its economic situation, and there were some indications that the situation will improve gradually.
Yeah.
But 2020 onwards, and during COVID-19, the situation became much more problematic,
Yeah.
and that forced post 2021,
Yeah.
you would witness that forced Turkey to recalibrate its foreign policy, rapprochement with Gulf countries, rapprochement with finally with Egypt, trying to have better relations with even European Union, so that the economy is can be revived.
Yeah.
And while there has been some success, the the problem with Turkish economy is that it has been structurally weak
Yeah.
conventionally,
Mm.
and that structural weakness keeps coming back.
Mm.
So you do not have a very large manufacturing and service sector.
Mm.
It is there, but it is not a very large manufacturing and army sector. It is not like China or India or even
Yeah.
South Korea or Japan.
Yeah.
Even compared to Indonesia and Malaysia,
Yeah.
it is less, in the
Yeah.
sense that Turkish economy largely depends on tourism sector,
Mm.
largely depends on other sectors for and trade, international trade for its robustness.
Yeah.
Which means that if these areas are affected through sometimes even external factors, it gets Turkish economy into trouble. And inflation has been a serious problem since 2015-16,
Yeah.
and Turkey has not really been able to work it out,
Yeah.
which would mean that the Turks will have to continuously struggle with it. But there's one more point, that if Turkey is able to stabilize its political situation, keep it stable, if it is able to have good relations with its broad neighborhood, it can still manage it because it remains an attractive tourist spot.
Yeah.
And globally, it has certain advantages as far as tourism is concerned. So I would say that they need better economic management, and they need to strengthen the structural Turkish economic structures. Uh, that is how they can remain stable. Otherwise, it will lead to further
Yeah.
problems.
So my last question to you, sir. Can you please elaborate the role of one NGO, IHH, or as we call it in Turkey, İnsan Hak ve Hürriyetleri ve İnsani Yardım Vakfı? It is a Nordic Monitor investigation has found that it is causing problems in Nepal. It is somewhere linked with Al Qaeda. It is also an arms smuggler, and also some bits or tits of it is also linked to the recent Delhi blast. So I just request you to highlight what this IHH issue is all about and its
The
implications.
IH, yeah,
Yeah.
I would say that IHH is an NGO. I mean, at least
Yeah.
from public records available, public information available, calls it an NGO which is Islamic in nature, in the sense that it is a religious charitable trust kind of organization. Also,
Yeah.
it largely functions as a organization that provides or extends humanitarian assistance, and at the times of natural disaster or at warlike situation, it is very active in Muslim countries,
Yeah.
in Central Asia, in West Asia, in Gaza, for example, in South Asia, in Bangladesh, in Pakistan, in other places in South Asia. I don't know. I don't have any information to what extent it is also active within India, but I don't think that it is active so far as information available to me is. concerned, but I have not, except maybe a few reports which have tried to link it to certain Islamist, extremist, or terrorist groups. I haven't really come across any serious report or credible report of linking it directly to any of the terrorist or extremist organizations so far. But that does not mean that it may not act as a conduit to towards not necessarily provide funds, but maybe facilitate some of the activities
Yeah.
of extremist organization.
Yeah.
But the concern is not necessarily about whether IHH is directly involved in terror activities or extremist activities or not. The concern is that it acts as an arm of Turkish state in expanding and extending its influence in different countries in different parts of the world. And from an Indian point of view,
Yeah.
the situation, its growing influence in South Asia, in different parts of South Asia, is something which India as a state and Indian analysts, Indian scholars need to take this, Indian security establishments,
Yeah.
they need to take this into account. I'm not sure, has there been any credible information about the linkages between IHH and the recent
There are
blast
some
in Delhi?
Turkish references made by some media
Yeah,
houses.
there has been reference about one of the perpetrators or one of the accused who has been detained having visited Turkey in the past, maybe 2 3 years, but we don't know
Yeah.
what they did. Anything saying anything at this point, I think would be a speculation until unless we have a credible information.
Yeah.
But besides that, I mean that is not the point. The point is whether IHH plays a role in extending Turkish foreign policy,
Yeah.
goals in different parts of the world. That is yes. Whether it has gradually expanded its presence in South Asia, in India's neighborhood, that also I would say yes, and that is where it becomes a serious concern for India, wherein we need to be careful in trying to make sure that it does not becomes a conduit for expansion of Turkish influence
Yeah.
in India, among minorities in India, Muslims in India,
Yeah.
and in the broader South Asia region, whereby it can play a role in harming India's interests.
Yeah. So
So I think it is very important to be careful to look at it more closely.
yeah. So thank you very much, sir, for joining us and having a conversation on Turkey. We discussed about Erdogan, his policy of neo-Ottomanism, the electoral behavior, defense, economy, and touched, I believe, that almost every part of governance of also Turkey and also its position in the world. So it was very, very humbling experience. It was a great experience talking to you, sir. Very much, very, very gratitude and thank you very much.
Thank you, Naman, for having me.
Thank you.